Okay, we're live. I've got the 1 minute chart open on Coinbase. Totally not degenerate, losing my mind. Duck, what's up?
Bitcoin's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, nothing new, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty sick though. I mean, I'm just so impressed by everything. What do you call when you're disbelieved? Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so mental. It's
Yeah.
more than up only. It's like it's almost at the point where the idea of down just ends up being offensive, right? When you look at how everything's shaping up. We've got plenty to talk about. It's hard not to be in a good mood when the market looks like this. We'll start off as usual. Hello, everyone joining us on Friday. Thanks for being here. Nice to have you. Unless you say stupid shit in the chat, in which case it's less nice, but we still appreciate your company. Thank you to the show's sponsor, which is Bybit. Their links are available in the description below. Thank you for their support. And joining me is the one, the only, Donald. What's up, dude?
I mean, I made that joke already. I can't make it twice. Not much.
A
Not
very
much.
special guest. We don't see you around here much, so nice of you
Yeah,
to find
very,
some time
very
in your
rare.
busy schedule to join us,
Yeah. No, it's been much better than the last few weeks. So yeah, it's good to kind of see this moon. I mean, it's pretty difficult, honestly. Like looking at it, trying to get like a good trade in because fucking hell,
Yeah.
you
On
don't get
leverage,
any
at least,
good
right? The
trade.
good trade is just holding
Yeah.
your Bitcoin and
That's
not
what.
losing it to scams, shitcoins, funds, all this other stuff.
Yeah,
Funding.
that's kind of how it is. Funding, I mean, you can't avoid that no matter
Yeah.
what you do. But yeah, the spot kind of rally has been really nice. The leverage side of things, I mean, I can't do much on that side anyway. But I mean, I can imagine that that's been pretty damn difficult given. I mean, if you're not just blindly buying, which I mean hasn't been too difficult.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's essentially been my strategy. Anything that looks like a level on a bad day, I've been buying it and I've been rewarded. It's just my holding periods have been way too low for those trades. But like, I've got full Bitcoin exposure. I told you my bank called me twice over the last like 2 weeks to ask me about these like suspicious transactions because I just keep aping fiat into Coinbase
are you
Pro.
serious? You didn't tell me.
Oh, did I not? Oh, I think I said it on screen
No.
before. Yeah. My bank has been fudding me. They called me twice about the suspicious pattern of transactions as I ape my withdrawal limit like for the last 2 weeks.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, that's been interesting, but we all know how that ends, right?
I mean, it's a new paradigm, bro.
Looks like it. I mean, I'm watching this 1 minute chart and it's going up, so that means it's going to go up forever. I think
Yeah.
look at these hourly candles. Does this look like remotely reasonable to you, or is this Michael Saylor hitting every ask he sees on Coinbase now that he's got his 1 billion raised to buy this kind of stuff?
I mean, I think 1 billion, right?
1 billion, yeah.
Yeah. I think in general, how this market's been working, basically, whenever these cash buys of his have been announced, is that smart people just buy it all up and then make him buy in more expensively, basically taking very little risk.
Yeah.
And that's why the chart looks like that, right? So, I mean, you can get lifted out of a pretty hefty position if you position yourself by just Saylor buying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can obviously also keep it, but I mean that's as close to a risk-free trade that you're gonna get with bigger size, right? I mean, if you're a smaller fish, you can still like jump in and out, but like in general, like if you want to buy like big and then sell big, like basically a small time frame scalp kind of movement, with bigger size. I mean, that's the best that you're gonna get.
Agreed.
And I think that's kind of what's been happening when you look at these candles. Kind of just see it's front running and then making him buy more expensively. And I mean, he's not been.
He
He's
doesn't care.
been. Yeah.
And he's up so
He
much. I
does
think
not
his
care.
most recent cost basis was what? Is it still in this under 20k? Right?
I think it's. I haven't actually checked up on it anymore, but I think it's 20K now
Yeah,
or above
something
20K.
like that. But still, some miles away. The funny part
Yeah.
is, part of what like technicals try to do is look at the so-called footprints left by bigger traders, bigger positions, etc., and to build a context as to where a lot of risk was taken up, how that risk feels at certain areas, who's going to add, who's going to puke, like following the footprints or tracing the footprints of big players. So it's always funny when instead of having to go through that investigative process, this guy's like, yeah, I'm going to buy 1 billion, right?
Yep.
So the market is just like, oh shit. So you get stuff like this. And the thing is, he still has to buy it, right? I mean, that's what the debt is issued for. Literally, I've got it up here actually. MicroStrategy completes 1.05 billion offering of convertible notes, mate, at 0% coupon. That's mad. I mean, it's expected, but still, seeing that is mad.
Yeah.
And then, look, MicroStrategy intends to use the net proceeds from the sales, and he says the net proceeds is 1.03 billion, so really not much there in terms of difference. Net proceeds to acquire additional Bitcoin, and that's it, And it's funny, because I think this raise started at 600 million, then it went to 900 million, and then now he finished the raise at 1 billion. So I mean, it's just insane. Even within the context of that raise, getting almost a 2x in terms of how much to buy Bitcoin with, that's impressive. That's some big boy FOMO.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what we've been seeing for every single time he's been kind of doing it, where it's been oversubscribed every time. I mean, I'm not surprised to see it again.
Right. Yeah.
And I think he could just keep on doing it. Like a good friend of mine actually said this. He's working at a hedge fund, and he said, like, this is the infinite money machine, where you can just do this over and over and over again. And it's basically a feedback loop where he pushes Bitcoin higher by buying, and then he issues new and just keeps on buying. And I mean, people want more exposure because Bitcoin goes up.
Yeah. And
it's just an infinite loop. And I mean, he's kind of been doing that. And the friend that told me about it at like, I think 20K-ish, 25. And I mean, we've seen what happens when you kind of get that action going.
And we had a couple of our close friends tell us the same thing, right? That like from what they were hearing on the ground, that there's just like an unironic supply side crisis with how much these guys want to buy and how much Bitcoin is actually available on exchange, etc., or just willing sellers either via OTC or on exchange, whatever. So it's certainly crazy. In other news stuff, I want to cover a couple of news articles. Or events, and then take it whatever. Maybe even do a Q&A thing if we have any new viewers, that type of thing. One interesting thing is what's been going on with Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum, and Uniswap generally. So you can see here, Binance earlier temporarily suspended withdrawals of Ethereum and Ethereum-based tokens in order to address a congestion issue. Rest assured, funds are Seifu. Something I find that so cringe, the whole Seifu thing. But whatever.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Funds are safe, and we apologize for any inconvenience caused. Updates to follow. I mean, I literally tweeted this. This is corporate warfare, and I fucking love it. It's no secret. I mean, the timing of Binance Smart Chain and pushing this, and Larry, for example, is making the argument here that everyone else seems to have no problems processing Ethereum withdrawals, etc. This seems as part of a larger strategy to push Binance Smart Chain as especially retail participants are basically getting priced out of doing DeFi or interacting with smart contracts via Ethereum just because fucking gas prices are so expensive. Yeah. So I get it, but I mean, this is just really cool to see. I mean, I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 recently, right? And they've got all this kind of corporate warfare between corporations sort of theme going on. I open up Twitter and it's like the same thing. I can't hate it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's if you're out to kind of promote your thing the most, it's kind of like it's a very Justin Sun kind of move, in my opinion. Like that's what I would expect Justin Sun to do, to just kind of push his stuff any way possible. And I think it's the same. Like the CZ is kind of running the same playbook here, where it's just like, okay, he's seeing an opportunity to kind of leech on, maybe not even leech, but just like to kind of steal some market share from ETH. Mm-hmm. And then he's just going for it, and he's going for it hard. I don't think this is a smart move, honestly, because I mean, a lot of this market is still relatively small, right? And a lot kind of hinges on how good you are with different kind of sites in the market, with different kind of projects and everything. Not entirely sure if he's making, like, if Binance is making friends with this, and I don't think they would need it, because I mean, the entire ecosystem that they've built basically has already mooned, right? It's not like they're trying to moon it by doing this. They're trying to make it moon harder, in my opinion, anyway. Who knows? Maybe what they're writing is real, right? I don't want to put any words into.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it might be a little bit over the top. I think, but I mean, I can see why they're doing it.
Yeah. This is the thing, right? No one, if you're using these dexes to basically speculate on Ponzi's, right? One of your probably the last concerns on your mind is decentralization, in my opinion, right? Like, if your priority is go for like proper new stuff, new listing, super high risk, low liquidity, like that side of crypto, especially as a retail participant, which is why you'd be using. I mean, the lower fees, more people are moving over, but initially the main concern being the higher fees in Ethereum. I really doubt those people have like ideological gripes, at least at that point, right? At least in the short term. And I actually agree from a speculator's point of view, especially when it's like alt season, everything's flying, everything's going up, you're trying to make money, etc. Choosing not to invest or use a certain platform which reduces your cost of trading, etc. Basically putting yourself at a disadvantage on the premise of like, oh, it's not decentralized. I don't know. I mean, I get it ideologically, but it feels like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you.
Yeah, I mean, how this stuff works usually in crypto, and I've seen this, and we've seen this over and over again, right? So something centralized comes up during a bull market. It does way better than the decentralized options because, I mean, it just makes sense, right? It's easier to use. I mean, let's be real, right? Centralized stuff is more fun and easier to use. It just has its own drawbacks, right? And there's a reason why everyone in the ecosystem kind of pushes, or that has been in the market for a longer time, kind of tries to push for the decentralized aspect of it.
Right.
But what happens every time is something new comes up. It's more centralized. It's faster. No one really cares about the decentralized stuff during a bull market.
Yeah.
And then that kind of goes on for a while. At some point, the bull market ends. And then the decentralized stuff outperforms on the way down. And the centralized stuff just vanishes. And that's been happening over and over and over again, right? So in my opinion, how this is probably going to play out is that, I mean, and kind of has already been playing out, is that CZ and everyone that's kind of in that boat is making a shitload of money, and then that's going to continue probably until the market for this kind of these new listings and this DeFi hype kind of slows down, and at that point the centralized stuff is just going to lose the entire bid and then go down the drain, while the decentralized stuff kind of outperforms, but it's probably still gonna tank, right?
Right.
So it's kind of funny to observe, because every time you get these people that are fighting the good fight for decentralization get super salty about the gains everyone else is making, and then while it's going down, they get back to, oh, haha, you suckers. But it's the same game over and over and over again.
Yeah, like none of the 2017 best performers were these. It was never the best projects, right? If anything, if you think back to what did the best, it's always the biggest pieces of shit that like weren't functional. And this also made me laugh. In case anyone was kind of dubious about intent, DeFi God, and I love his Twitter, by the way, he retweeted this meme, laser eyes, of CZ as a response to Binance suspending withdrawals. And CZ quote retweeted with, "Oops, no, not intentional, would never do that." I mean, he just doesn't give a fuck, right? That's about as close as you're going to get to a quote-unquote admission, in my honestly held opinion, that the congestion maybe wasn't the only consideration, let's put it nicely, when it comes to limiting ETH withdrawals. But but I also saw just moments ago Binance is trending in the UK. Is it because it's down? I'm sure people's wallets aren't showing up.
So the reason why everyone is talking about Binance is because everyone is showing zero balance.
Yeah, zero.
Or almost everyone.
Now. Yeah.
And that's obviously gonna be a big, like, I mean, of all the new people that haven't gone through this before, I mean, Binance has happened multiple times,
right?
For Binance before, the zero balance thing, and it's happened for multiple exchanges.
It's a look into the future, I think, for most of these people, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's obviously gonna make you panic hard, right?
Because, of course.
If you're new to this, imagine your bank account suddenly showing zero, right? I mean, that's gonna make you panic hard. So yeah, I'm not surprised that people are panicking. I don't think it's anything serious. No. It's never been anything serious.
Even though Binance
but-
has been hacked before, and
Yeah.
the follow-up investigations were basically immaterial. But moving on, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, that's true.
It is true, but they've kind of paid everyone,
Yes,
right?
nobody
So-
really gives a fuck as long as you get your money back. People only care
Yeah.
about investigations if they could potentially see it as a means of getting a remedy. But if you just pay everyone back, no one really cares about the procedural propriety of it. And they've got the Seifu fund as well, right?
No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I hate that meme so much. I mean, I get it, and I get that it kind of makes the entire Binance thing more approachable,
Yeah.
right? And it's probably a good branding move, whatever. But like, just figuring, like, we're kind of in the finance sector, right? As much as it doesn't feel like it, we're kind of moving in the finance sector, and that's just kind of, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
It's
These
just kind of like big forced meme that I'm not a big fan of, but it is what it is, right? I mean, I get why they're pushing it, so and it's never gonna stop. So
No.
gonna just have to keep.
I mean, it's part of the
watching
branding, right? At this point.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
I still prefer. I'd rather use HODL than Seifu. I really don't like either, but you know.
Yeah, I mean,
it
one's
goes to my
forced,
head.
the other one isn't, right?
Yes.
Like, I think in memes in general, it's really easy to spot if a meme is forced or if it's not. Like, if
Right.
it's as stupid as this kind of memeology
Yeah, no, I understand.
sounds. But yeah, if you force it too much, just kind of it starts getting super cringy. And if you don't, I mean, it's just a funny meme. But yeah.
Sounds about right. I think Coinbase is trading at a premium again, unless my eyes deceive me. It's at 250s, Bybit at 218s. It actually flipped back on this dip to trading at a premium, I think, unless my
Oh
eyes
yeah,
are lying.
but I mean, BitMEX trading 100 above.
Yeah. A bit of a mix. I think we saw an exchange-wide Coinbase premium a bit earlier. But yeah, look, I don't think Michael Saylor is particularly going to wait longer than he has to, at least, to start buying.
He probably has already bought it all. I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if he's already finished. Yeah.
And what the announcement was after he was done buying, that could be the case.
No, I think he could have bought in the last few hours. Like I
yeah?
mean, yeah, I mean, he could be twopping or however you pronounce it, T-wopping.
Twatting, yeah.
He could still be doing it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's already bought. Like, I mean, just
it's
given
a billion,
how
right?
Yeah, but still, like if you look back, and I mean in general, you get a bunch of liquidity when you break highs, right? So wouldn't be
Right.
surprised if you can kind of get in at least a good sizable
Yeah.
chunk.
I'm sure when we see the outflows, it'll be more obvious, like
Yeah.
how that went. But I don't think it makes a difference ultimately. What would make a difference is if news like that hit, and then the market like didn't give a shit or shrugged it off. I'd find it really hard to believe that in any case, because if you're guaranteed a 1 billion delayed buyer, you're going to front run him anyway, even if you're not going to hold on to the position, right? But yeah, I mean, this looks really good. I don't know what else to say from a technical point of view. This weekly breakout for me was huge above the consolidation, and I kind of agree with your conclusion that that's support now. So, you know, even from now, I mean, that's crazy. We established the support. If we pull back to like the top of it, that's 30%, and the bottom of it is already 40% away, right? which is pretty crazy. But at least we have something if the market really starts looking scary, which it hasn't.
I mean, that's the 40% pullback kind of thing that we've had in multiple kind of bull markets,
Yeah.
which makes it just that much better. Like it feels so much safer to
agree.
kind of hold into, like when you know, okay, the next pullback target wouldn't be just like 90% away.
Yeah, because when we were breaking down at 30k, and that looked like a piece of shit, and then as we know, it got rescued by an infinite bid, right? Literally at 30k. But like in terms of support below 30k, if it were trading normally, so to speak, I mean, where do you go for? 22, 24, 20, right? It gets really
20,
uncomfortable. Whereas I'm glad now we have something. This is why people argue. You see this a lot on TA stuff. This is for the audience. When they say, oh, this is like unhealthy, or, you know, a grind is better than a parabolic whatever move. It's not always true, but I think generally it holds the scrutiny that support is best formed horizontally rather than diagonally, right? So when price enters a range, etc., that kind of stuff is good because if it goes back there, you actually have some structure to work with as opposed to a big kind of air gap or whatever, you know?
Someone asked in the chat real quick if the funds are insured on Coinbase. Yeah, as far as I know, they are.
I think there's some degree of insurance on Coinbase, FDIC or something like that.
Yeah, you have a large actually. Like, I mean, if you're not like holding in the millions on Coinbase,
Yeah.
you're fine either way.
Yeah, Coinbase certainly is better on that front than most exchanges. But also, you have to realize, like, Binance and Coinbase aren't the same thing, right? If you're on Coinbase, for the most part, you're there as a fiat on-ramp. So where you connect your bank account, they're in tightly regulated and clear jurisdictions, and that's where you kind of enter and exit crypto, so to speak. Whereas Binance is more of an exchange. I mean, you can exit and enter crypto there with your credit card, bank account, etc. I personally wouldn't do that. It's more where you do your trading. So I mean, if I had to split exchanges into two categories, it'd be crypto service providers into two categories. It'd be fiat on-ramps, which is where you do your KYC, connect your bank account, etc., etc. That's where the big fiat transactions are done. And then the actual exchanges where you do the trading. Now, we're seeing that blurred a little bit. Like some exchanges are being really good at introducing like native fiat on-ramps as opposed to using third parties, but I still think that distinction is generally pretty helpful. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I agree. I in general, I feel like I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, but I think the hold your keys yourself as a crypto noob thing is a little bit dangerous, and you're oftentimes better off just holding your crypto or like your funds, whatever, on Coinbase, as like if you're really not good with tech and if you're not good with kind of handling it on your own, because something that you see over and over and over again is that people mess stuff up, and that's just how things go, right? You're not good with all these wallets, you're not good with handling this kind of stuff. You might be better off just having your funds, even as bad as it sounds, because it kind of defeats the purpose, right? But some people want to have exposure, and I think they don't want to kind of care about the security part of it. And then I think you're kind of, it's not as bad as it sounds, holding at least some of it on centralized exchanges, as long as it's something like Coinbase, in my opinion. But it goes against the crypto kind of.
Yeah, I know. I still think it's
spirit.
Easier to secure an account on Coinbase than necessarily for someone to have very clean wallet practices.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I think for the most part, if you use a centralized exchange, just like a Coinbase, that's what I use, right? I use Coinbase and Kraken for my fiat stuff. They're in regulated jurisdictions. I kind of know what's going on. I'm happy to KYC there, and as long as the account itself is secure, like you use a unique email, you don't reuse a password, and you use non-SMS 2FA, I think you're in pretty good shape. Unlike Bitcoin, which doesn't seem to like this live stream. Maybe we should just turn it off and then come back when it's going up. How much is that from the highs? It's down 2%. It's over. I can't believe
it's over.
It's down 2%.
You're running the 1 minute chart. Yeah.
yeah.
Put it on the 1 hour chart, and you can't.
The bullish Burj Khalifa. This is called. Yeah. 1 hour engulfing. Yeah. It's over as well. This was fun. Just end the stream. Delete the channel. Bitcoin is so last year, bro.
I think in general, this kind of move and these news are really nice.
We're joking, by the way. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, if that wasn't clear.
Yeah. You never know.
But I think these news, they're super, super nice, because if you're looking on the daily right now, you have like these last 3 daily candles, like a green candle to the upside, consolidation to like sideways a little bit with that red candle, now a green candle as well, right?
Yes,
invalidation before on the bull move has been okay if it breaks back below 40k, right? Now I think there's a better invalidation higher up, which is always nice, because as I explained before, in like raging bull markets like this, it's much better to just raise your invalidation up instead of just taking profit along the way. At least in a raging crypto market, because they only go up when they're in this kind of mode, and when they stop going up, then there's something wrong, right? And with this kind of news, it's always nice to kind of just tighten up, and you have a floor that shouldn't get broken, in my opinion. And Cred kind of pointed that support out earlier, put it on the chart.
I'm going to add it to my chart right now, if you don't mind. So if I lose money buying it, I can come to you for a refund. I think that's how that works, right?
If you're losing money when it breaks down, basically, and you didn't, or like I mean, if it gets chopped around there, then you can say, okay, that's my fault. Because I think as long as that holds, we're still in the only up market kind of phase. And if it does break down, that would kind of make me think, okay, we're going to go into sideways or maybe even pullback kind of stage of the market.
Right.
So
I think that's reasonable. I've got like intraday levels around here on some other charts, but I agree that that's sort of what you're looking for. And again, it's been the kind of market where you have really shitty levels doing really good jobs, right? So I think this totally qualifies the 51 to 52k as your kind of pullback support level. Mo says, Craig, by the way, if you guys have any questions, let us know. Someone asked thoughts on the stock to flow model for Bitcoin. I actually think it's dog shit. And has no useful or logically consistent predictive power. And just because a model takes you to a correct conclusion doesn't mean the reasoning for that model is correct. I can't take stock to flow seriously. Nobody that I respect takes stock to flow seriously either. I think it's just bait for noobs, frankly. And, I think that's... anything to add, Duck, or is that fairly...
The best thing about stock to flow is basically that it has people... hold on to something that they otherwise wouldn't.
Like, so it's functionally useful, but logically,
in my opinion, it's basically like saying, okay, my car runs because I'm sitting in it. Right? It's just like, what are you saying? I mean, it's running most of the time when you're sitting in it, but doesn't mean like it wouldn't if you're not, right? If someone else drives it, would still work fine. Yeah. It's kind of like that thing where you just use something and makes it look good, but it's just complete. Like it's just a construct of I don't know. I don't want to trash talk it too much, but like I can't agree with it too much. But then again, like the results of the people that have been following it, like making gains and being happy. I mean, I'm happy.
Yeah, but it's the same like Eric Wall hates it, for example, right? He used to hate us as well, but now one of those is gone at least. But he made a rainbow chart. Did you see his like satire of stock to flow? He made the rainbow chart as a meme, and Price has been following that as well. And he has serious investors asking him about the rainbow chart. So no, I think it's hilarious. I personally don't take it seriously. I generally don't take seriously like those sorts of models which try to predict super far into the future. It's just not useful for my trading, and I'm not sure what the falsifiability of those sorts of models is. I think the furthest I go with that kind of stuff is like relative gains or losses, like as a market cap of gold, that type of stuff. I can sort of dig that, but anything else I find it really difficult to take seriously. But hey, if it works for you and gives you diamond hands, so be it. Certainly doesn't for me.
Yeah, the problem, I think the problem just starts when you're taking it religiously, because at that point you're basically taking everything. It's just like, okay, I trust you stock to flow model and just do my investing for me. And I mean, it's been working pretty nicely for you if you've done that, but it's not because, in my opinion anyway, because the stock to flow the stock to flow model, it's not because it's been particularly like predictive. It's just been that the market's just been coincidentally just going the same direction.
Like, you remember in 2017, Duck, there was a certain trader we followed who was mega popular, and all of his wave-based projections were incredibly bullish, right? It's like 5 legs up, 1 leg down, 5 legs up. You know what I mean, right? That setup. Yeah. And then it was playing out. Obviously, it was all playing out. People thought this guy was like the best technical analyst in the world. They all paid for his courses, etc. Where it turns out, the lines themselves and the wave counts and the methodology had no real predictive power. It's just the fact that the market was going up and he was really well aligned with the trend. Credit for that, of course. But you got to not mistake... I mean, it's like almost like a correlation causation or false causation type of meme, right? For example, if I were to sit here and argue that every capital city starts with the letter P, Paris starts with the letter P, therefore Paris is the capital city of France. Like, yes, that's correct, but not for the reason you think. So that's my sort of take on that. Yes, I remember hyperwave theory with Bitcoin going to 1K. That was a lot of fun. But we don't speak ill of those who have departed, so gonna be pretty careful there. Not on stream, at least, right? So yeah, Bitcoin, I agree with the Duck. We have a nice level formed at 52, 51. That's the kind of first real pullback to punt, and it also just makes sense from a structural point of view. Like, once we broke out of this grindy range, had a bit of a consolidation before this impulse move up. So It's your good old mate. The amount of times I've drawn this, I can probably do it, with my eyes closed. Not like that's an achievement, but this impulse, consolidate, impulse structure. If the market's bullish, if it comes back to the origin of the move, that's where it should be finding support. If not, that sucks because it's got to go somewhere else.
Well said. Yeah.
Well said. Right. I want to talk about ETH. Technical Roundup has been really good with catching the rotations between Bitcoin and ETH, which is our free weekly newsletter. Go subscribe, do all that fun stuff. It's been painful seeing a lot of my friends long ETH instead of Bitcoin for days on end, sometimes longer, pay really high funding, and not see the kind of outperformance that perhaps they'd expect. Even this whole daily at the moment has been engulfed, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I was on board the whole ETH outperformance train when the market broke out, right? Which is understandable. So on this all-time high daily close, that's where I was heavily ETH exposed, benefited from this one day of upside, and then I don't remember exactly where, but somewhere in this range, I was just not impressed and reallocated back towards BTC. And it's the same story in ETH BTC, I think. No matter how you draw this type of weekly breakout, it's the same theme that you had like a mega important breakout, which was supposed to basically double in price, and instead it just kind of went sideways and then down, or sideways and fuck all. And yes, the USD pair is obviously going up because everything's going up, but on a relative performance to Bitcoin, I think most participants were expecting this breakout candle to take us another 50% higher or so towards 0.05. It's in an area of support right now, but either way, no matter how you slice it, this typically isn't how you want the breakout of like a high time frame, multi-year level range, whatever, to look like, right?
I mean, Bitcoin just broke 50K, right? I mean, at some point, it'd be surprising if it outperformed, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not surprised that when you're seeing Bitcoin break level after level and gets like a billion after a billion
Right,
just
yeah.
put into it.
How are you supposed to compete with that, right?
Yeah, you can't. And then on top of it, like ETH is just kind of like getting to its technical limitations. I mean, that's the nicest way to saying it, I think. Where it's just been, we've been waiting for ETH 2.0, right? We've been waiting for all of these issues to be fixed. They've come up in 17 during the ICO bull market, basically, 17 and 18. ETH was barely functional back then. Got basically forced into like it didn't function anymore when CryptoKitties came out, for example. And now we're basically in the same situation again. It's a little bit better now than it was back then, but still you'd expect that to not happen after so many years. But yeah, so I mean there's several kind of things that kind of make it like pull it back down, I think. One, Bitcoin just mega mooning in, and two, obviously ETH just not functioning as intended. Or maybe it's intended, but I mean that cannot be. It's at least not fun to use. Let's put it that way. I hope that changes.
Shit, right? We always do this shit. Like it just network stops being functional, and we kind of just cope because prices are high. I kind of love it.
Yeah, I mean that's how the crypto markets in general like to work, and I mean that's pushing boundaries, right? And it's always been the case like that. Bitcoin stops working because too many people transact, then it goes down, and then something else comes up. People work on Bitcoin more. The use case of Bitcoin kind of gets redefined, and it goes further up, and the same thing happened again. And it's the same with ETH, right? ETH kind of hits its limitations in 17. It's now hitting the limitations again, and I mean that's a good way to progress. But at some point, you're gonna get rid of those limitations. Otherwise, I mean, we're only still like a kind of small community, and if a project kind of like the biggest project in the smart contract kind of world kind of stops working properly,
right?
Then yeah, it's obviously a worrying sign. But I think it's going to get fixed at some point. It's just a question of when, and we've been waiting long enough.
I mean, the incentives are there, like financially speaking, like revenues and fees, etc. There's no shortage of that. And when we spoke to Dan from CMS, there's innovation on layer 1 and layer 2, different degrees of decentralization among those, etc. So, I mean, it will get fixed, but timing-wise, it can end up being quite tricky. But this is what we always come back to, right? It's just the economic incentives align. It will get fixed, and we just kind of defer indefinitely. The same is kind of with the crypto infrastructure space more generally, right? With, for example, exchanges basically collapsing when it comes to volatility. It still happens to this day, right? Whenever things get just a bit too crazy. I mean, it's happening right now with Binance not showing wallet balances. I know that they say, like, I think it's an AWS issue, but nonetheless, like, we had that 10% pullback in one candle a few weeks ago, whenever that was. Like, everything went offline. It's still, I think the infrastructure is still really, really underwhelming, especially given how much revenue these companies are making. The usability and how poorly prepared they are for the people that want to trade there is shocking, but we just get used to it, right? Kind of bend over and let them do it to us to use slightly more graphic language.
I mean, honestly, like it's at least growing, right? I mean, there's a trend there where every kind of year or every cycle it gets a little bit better. You obviously expect more, given that we've gone through so many cycles now, and these exchanges have been around for so long that you'd expect them to kind of be better.
Right.
But at least the trend is kind of in the right direction, right? Where the exchanges are handling more than they've ever had. So at least something there. But yeah, I wish we didn't have these problems anymore. You'd kind of, like in the tech space, you'd kind of expect these problems to get fixed at some point. But yeah,
I think we're getting better, but it's not satisfactory. Although, you know, after the whole Robin Hood stuff, we physically couldn't like do certain things. I guess we should complain less, at least in like relative terms.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy times, right? If you think about it, everyone kind of gets into trading these days. Yeah. So I mean, the demand is huge, and someone in the chat is talking about Bitcoin Cash and how they got wrecked, because I talked about it yesterday, the day before. We could talk about Bitcoin Cash. Like we actually mentioned them in the newsletter as well.
Yeah, BCH, BTC, Bittrex should have decent price history. I mean, yeah, against Bitcoin, nothing good going on.
Yeah,
at that.
But it's kind of just getting rejected from the resistance that we've talked about, and it's the same resistance that I've talked about as well. Where I'm like, okay, if it can break this, it's probably gonna go up. The problem with Bitcoin Cash,
right? It's just gone sideways. Yeah. There's nothing going on.
The problem with Bitcoin Cash right now, today, basically, and one of the reasons why it's been underperforming, even though everything's been underperforming, obviously, is that it got delisted from
OKX, right?
OKX, yeah. So BSV and Bitcoin Cash got delisted. That's stuff that you always have to kind of watch out for if you're holding a coin or if you're leverage trading a coin. If you get delisted somewhere, you're gonna get wrecked, right? It's just how it is. I don't know why they delisted. I haven't had time to kind of read into it. I read
like the headline, which I think is very indicative of the kind of person I am, and that's as far as I went. But I think it's something along the lines of to avoid brand confusion for newer customers. So when they think they're buying Bitcoin, like the one they hear about in the news, so they don't get fucking confused when they buy Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV. I think that's my understanding is that was the logic, and they said they'd happily relist if they changed their branding or something like that. I don't know.
Imagine that.
I mean, I get it, right? That's the argument that's been going around as a criticism of BCH and BSV literally for the longest time, that it's not what it's saying it is. But then you enter all kinds of identity questions, like what is the original and blah, blah, blah. I think it's pretty clear cut. Like BTC is, when people refer to Bitcoin, 99.99% of cases, they mean BTC. And some idiots will still, not necessarily idiots, but some people will still get confused when they go to those centralized exchanges because there's a cheaper Bitcoin. Everyone's buying it. I mean, to be fair, alarm bells should kind of sound at that point in your head, right? Like, Bitcoin is 55,000, but on this exchange I can buy it for, $700. I mean, you'd hope for most reasonable people that would set off alarm bells, but I concede that it's still a problem. Enough of a problem to enough people, I guess, for them to take that sort of action,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a problem to just say, okay, we don't really serve you anymore. Like, you cannot be traded. Like, it's always this kind of group think that gets dangerous, I think, where you're just like, okay, this is shit because I don't agree with it. But then again, like, I mean, you've seen Roger use tactics where he tries to kind of bait people into believing that his Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. The problem is he kind of still believes it, right? And imagine you're in a position where you see something that you love be overtaken by people that you think are not doing the right thing. I can kind of get where he's coming from, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be right to kind of, okay, I can see where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing, even when you're not agreeing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I agree that it's a little bit problematic because you're obviously gonna have people just buy the wrong thing or like not the thing that they want to buy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as big a Bitcoin Cash hater as most people in the crypto space. I just think it's basically like any other fork of Bitcoin. But yeah, the market kind of decided.
Those are the words I was going to use. Right, it seems that we've come to some sort of consensus, if there's such a thing as possible, with what Bitcoin is, so to speak. Someone's asking, oh, can we have Cobain on the show? We've tried to invite Kobe before. He wasn't great at replying to DMs at that specific moment in time. But maybe after
now he has his own.
Yeah,
he has his own show. It's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen just based on the fact that he has his own show. So, I'd be surprised if he went on others. But I mean, we've talked with him before.
Yeah, we can have a chat. It would be fun to. I played this Google Feud game with him for like 6 hours, a couple of days ago, which was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I'm sure. We'll always mix up the guests. Sometimes we like to catch up between ourselves as well. Next week we actually have a guest whom you all know, I'm sure. So that'll be fun to kind of see what's going on there. But yeah, broadly speaking, Bitcoin looks good. ETH also looks good, but that's more of a function of the whole market looking good rather than anything ETH specific. That kind of shows how spoiled we are, right? It's like everything is going up, and it's a question of, well, what's going up the most for me to allocate to? It's a good problem to have, you know? As for the other things, I don't know what's been on your mind. On Monday, I've kind of redone my watch lists again. So I've got one called Chat Shitcoins, which is when they spam chat. I'm just going to add them here and go through those. That should be fun. I've got DeFi, indices, IRL markets, MISC altcoins, and OG majors. That's some categories to go through on Monday at least. One thing I like in the chat that's come up a couple times is the idea of, FTT's mooning. You mentioned Leo mooning earlier. FTX's exchange perp index. I don't know the exact composition, but I assume it's got most of the exchange coins. What, BNB, FTT, Leo?
I'm not sure if it has Leo actually, because Leo is not technically an exchange coin.
Oh, you're right.
I mean, it is. Like, it's in such a weird position where you get like better kind of fees and stuff, but it's still like not originally an exchange. It's weird.
Yeah, let me see. I've actually got it here. What XPerp is made up of? BNB. Oh yeah, Huobi token, OKB. Oh, it's actually got Leo. Yeah, it's got Leo. And nice. FTT. So yeah, BNB, HT, OKB, Leo, FTT. These things have been mooning. FTT's been mooning. BNB via BSC has been mooning as well, right? So a lot of this stuff is just going up a lot. What kind of narrative do you see unfolding with this? Do you think it's Coinbase IPO related? Is it just everything's going up? Is it kind of a laggard play to Binance value capture via BNB? What do you think? What's up?
I think it's a good mix of a bunch of things. Like one, the BNB, the entire Binance ecosystem has been doing incredibly well, right? I mean, they've managed to outperform Uniswap on volume, as far as I'm aware. In the DeFi DeFi space with what's it called, PancakeSwap?
Yeah.
Which
is hilarious in itself, right? But...
Yeah. I mean, Cake's been interesting. So yeah, they've done really well, and that obviously, and I mean, technically, I can even share my screen just like from a technical standpoint. I've kept on talking about this for ages. With BNB, like the technical setup to play. And this is something that I keep on talking about. It's the one setup that I have utmost confidence in the altcoin market. Is where you have a range, you undercut it, and then you reclaim it, and then you just go, right? And this is the one setup that I've kept on talking about. You don't want to see like a range, like it goes sideways here, and it goes a little bit out, and then starts like whatever.
Yeah.
No, you want to see like it pretty damn bad wipe, and that's what happened here. And then it reclaimed, and in combination with, okay, you have this Binance ecosystem doing really well. You also have the Coinbase IPO, and I agree with you there that that's a large. I think that's probably the main driver of this thing. When you look at the valuation of that in comparison to other exchanges or like exchange tokens, it's just these tokens are technically worth way too little.
Right.
When you compare them to what the Coinbase IPO is kind of the numbers that are floating around there. I don't have it in my head. Loomdan made a really good post about it.
I think you'd expect some sort of discount to be present given their legal nature and how much like equity they confer, or that their benefits are far more ambiguous, and there's risk of being a security, etc., etc. So you'd expect it to be a bit discounted from like the actual valuation of the exchange. But there's still a relative value play to be had. Andrea says Don reclaiming a range, but with no possibility of a retest to get an entry? Question mark.
I mean, there was a retest, just a low time frame one. You had this retest here, and it's actually my favorite. Like, this is something that I keep talking about. Like, these retests that you get immediately after breaking out, it's actually a bad thing. Like, I much prefer you see this ripping, and it's much better to just buy into the momentum and then not get a retest, rather than like getting, let's say this range is here, breaks out of the range, gets back in, and then retests and retests again. Like, at that point, you'd expect it to just break down, right?
Right.
So you have people that sold the bottom here. You have people that shorted in here. They're getting squeezed. You don't want to give them an easy exit on the shorts that they've put in. And you also don't want to give like the people that have kind of panicked out of their positions an easy way to get back in. So for me personally, I like it much more when it just goes straight up and then just buying into the momentum. It sucks as a trader because it's really like you have to time it right, and you just basically have like a day chance. If you look at the lower time frames, you've basically had a lower time frame retest, which I mean that is fine.
For, kind of, right? Like,
that's the best kind of thing that you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here, right? Like, you're looking at my weekly time frame chart, and you might be saying, "Oh, well, there's not been a retest. There's not been anything, right?" And I've had these lines for, I mean, more than a year now, right? And then you go and look at them on the lower time frames, and then you can kind of see where the buying has been stepping in, and it's down here, and it's up here, and those are the two boundaries that I've set, and they've been respected perfectly. And I mean, I don't want to say, okay, yeah, my chart made this go mega moon, because that's just one part of the equation, but the chart looked really well, like looked really good, and it has played out pretty well, just based on like we talked about the IPO of Coinbase, and then also just I think it's just CZ kind of grabbing the bull by its horns and kind of getting in front of the momentum play.
If not now, then when, right? Everyone's talking about Binance Smart Chain, Binance generally, etc. That makes sense. Funnily enough, I was using BNB before it mooned as one of the comparisons for like underperforming Bitcoin, but then it landed right at a monthly level that I had. I think it's literally it's somewhere here. Yeah, it's literally, I had this cluster outlined. Do I even have it here? No, I deleted all my levels. But it's on some live stream somewhere. This cluster, that it was all the way down here, and I'm like, well, this is at support, and obviously no one, I certainly didn't expect this type of reaction. But I think it proves a good point, or gives evidence to a good point that we discuss, where the BTC charts still matter a lot, right? The altcoin Bitcoin pairs. I'm slowly being, not slowly being converted, like I've never really denied the utility of the BTC pairs when it comes to trading either the BTC or the USD pairs. But I think in recent times, and we've even looked at some DeFi stuff, Aave, etc., you're going to get your highest probability trade with the most confluence when the BTC and the USD pairs look good. When that kind of stuff aligns, you know you've got a real crack at outperforming the market. So even if you trade just the USD pair, like, you know, traders like Confluence, there's no better Confluence, I think, than the BTC pair looking good. It's funny though, I found it very helpful to create this kind of, import this type of index these are all FTS indices, and it's got DeFi perp, alt perp, mid perp, shit perp. That's kind of going by market cap, exchange perp, and privacy perp. And it's, relative to just altcoins generally, DeFi is like the weakest performer today.
Yeah.
So that kind of lends some credibility to the narrative. Binance Smart Chain taking over, some rotation going on from these projects which have pumped thousands, tens of thousands of percent, to some newer stuff to ape into on BSC. But I don't have anything particularly insightful to say unless you do, but I've just generally found it pretty cool to have this at a glance available, instead of having to look at every single coin and come to conclusions in that way, just to be able to skim read the percentage change on a bunch of indices to get an idea of where risk is sitting for the day. Don't know if you have any thoughts or anything to add.
No, I agree. I think it's pretty nice. I generally look at the leaders,
Right.
or I try to, but it's the same kind of thing, because the leaders make that in these, like, they're basically what shapes that chart.
Yes.
And we can look at I hate the ones that are not just straight up where I can read the name and know how it's pronounced, Ave or whatever.
Ave, yeah.
Ave, yeah. Like, you look at this, and it's like been the hottest thing on the market, and it's pulling back a shitload against Bitcoin. And then okay, the DeFi perp is probably, or like in the entire DeFi space, is probably not going to do too well right now. Against USDs, obviously, and that's the thing, right? Against USD, I mean, that's pulled back a little, but it's still looking much, much less grave than the situation it's in against BTC, and it's obviously because Bitcoin is mooning, right?
Yeah.
Because like on the BTC pair, this has actually broken support, and we'll have to wait and see how that responds to kind of like if it does bounce back up, if it can reclaim that. And I think if it can reclaim, that's
a good
a
setup,
really nice setup.
Yeah.
And if it can't, like the thing is with these bearish setups, I mean, against Bitcoin, you might be able to take them just based on the fact that if you're expecting Bitcoin strength, you can take these. But then again, it's really hard to trade these coins against Bitcoin. So it's not as easy. But in general, like when the market is really, really bullish, the best way to trade these is just you get a failure of a support. You're like, okay, this is technically bearish now, so I'm gonna wait and watch the support, see if it can actually be turned back into support. Watch that resistance, see if it can be turned back into support, and then you have a good setup with like a risk definition of down here, and then the target way higher. And I think that's been the best play for like most of these. Interesting enough, like all the like older pairs that've been like the ones that've been hyped the most.
So
like
give me 2 seconds, don't keep going without me.
Yeah, YFI been struggling really hard. We talked about this before, where it's just making lower highs, putting in somewhat of a range here. So that's going to be interesting to watch. You don't want to see it start breaking that range, because then you get close to this swing low here again, where it's already retested this. So that just be like, I hate when you have a structure that kind of does like something like this, because the moment you start taking out one of these, you're going to take out all of them, right? The lows. So this kind of structure is dangerous. It's still holding, so it's fine, right? But you can kind of see how close these lows are together. So if one of them goes, everything goes, and that's not something that you want to see on like a market leader. But then again, the market's moving so fast that the market leaders are kind of getting exchanged around, right? Wi-Fi was it a few months ago, and then you have new ones come in and take that spot, and then you have new ones come in again. So yeah, Wi-Fi has been struggling a lot. And then the same thing is true for Link, right? I've been looking for an entry on Link yesterday.
Looks like it wants to give you one, just not on the side you were not on the side
do you remember?
For.
Do you remember when I was saying, okay, this broke down? You can either wait for this to kind of go back up, and then you can take the long trade, or you can just take the short trade into that resistance. And I only want to take the long trade. Yeah, well,
the one time you get bullish Link, it just invalidates your.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I wasn't bullish Link just yet. I was like, I wanna see this close back above daily support, and it didn't. But yeah, this is a struggle.
The one
so
time
I mean,
you were
I don't
looking
like this.
for something constructive on Link, it doesn't give it to you.
I mean, for me, when I look at these altcoins, right, and I've been bullish Link BTC for the longest, bearish Link UTC BTC for the longest time of this like kind of drawdown. I don't mind like taking a gamble on the long side, or getting some exposure anyway, when I think it could be reversing. But yeah, so far not showing the greatest of strength. Still think it's a decent setup if it can reclaim support, but at this point, it's getting less and less so of a good setup, because when you have like a support level like this, and it's the same setup that I've talked about with BNB, right? And you can see the immediate retest and what that does to a chart, right? It immediately retests, bounces a little, and then ultimately just goes down, starts shopping, and it's not as good of a setup. If this just kept on going, it would have been, I mean, it sounds stupid to say, because if I'm like, okay, if this kept on going and doubled, it would have been more bullish. But yeah, in general, like these kind of pullbacks, they should be a warning sign more than, right, oh, now it finally pulled back, I can get into it.
We have a careful way of expressing that in the newsletter. I think we say the less time price spends at huge retest levels, the better that is generally. So it's not like a death sentence all the time, but like in the best setups, there's no looking back. And if there is, it's a quick wick that you missed because you weren't fast enough to put your orders there, or on some mega low time frame for the most part.
Yep, agreed. So, I mean, that's been rough. I talked about Bitcoin Cash, like we talked about earlier, and I was like, I want to see that reclaimed. That's been kind of tough luck so far. Same story. Kind of getting rejected from the thing that it should have reclaimed. So I'm going to have to wait on that as well. See if it can at some point reclaim it. And then the same thing is true for Litecoin. Was like, I want to see that resistance reclaimed. So far, it's just chopping in it. So
I just hate that chart, man. There's nothing can make me respect this range in LTC BTC. I just
it's weird, right? There's something weird going on with Litecoin. Like, this is not a normal chart you usually get on altcoins. Like on altcoins, you either get the slow bleed, you get the full capitulation, or you get just in general like a range that respects boundaries really well, where you just get like a range here. Obviously, there's also the full moon kind of chart, but like this kind of thing is very, very rare.
And look, these are weekly candles, right? So this is like months in this chopping your piece of shit rectangle.
It's basically it's 22 weeks of that.
Yeah,
it's pretty mad. I don't know if this is accumulation or not. I hate the people that say, okay, something goes sideways, and then they see it go sideways, and they're like, okay, this is accumulation, because it could just be distribution for all you know, right? But for me, in general, I still want to see a trade above here.
It's accumulation, and I think if you're bullish, and distribution if it's bearish. So if you're bearish, right? That's how it works.
That's a good point. But then again, like in general, most people kind of try to catch a bottom. That's just the way people like to play in crypto, and even in these kind of strongly trending markets. And I mean, I'm no different, right? I'm looking at this chart, and any reasonable person would be saying this is a heavy downtrend. Don't even try to look at it. And I still want to be buying it. Yeah. And it's the same, like, it's been the same for most altcoins, right? Where you have, even if they're putting in some green candles, right? You've had a few weeks of upside. They're still in a heavy downtrend. We obviously all want to buy, because, I mean, if you do catch kind of the trend reversal, that's going to be big money. I mean, from a logical kind of perspective, it's the same as trying to time the top here on Bitcoin, which we all know is kind of fucking people over and over and over again.
Because, have you looked at like the monthly charts of Bitcoin? Yeah. And it's funny when I look at this, right? Where are you, Bitcoin, ETH? Here we go. Like when I look at this monthly, even a 3-month chart, right? And I turn off log. That's when it gets really bad. I just look at it and think, how much of my life did I waste basically here, how many Bitcoin did I lose to stupid things, bad trades, not understanding leverage, getting impatient, etc. Like, why was I alive, basically, for this? When I think for the vast majority of participants, they may be better traders, but there's a non-trivial chance, in my head, a very high chance that they're being hugely outperformed by people who just bought the strength when it first reared its head. 12k, 15k, 17k, 20k, whatever, and are just enjoying the spoils since then. Sometimes my time frames kind of skip or log turns off, whatever, and I'm faced with the existential dread of just looking at how much of my life was kind of spent trying to achieve something within what was ultimately arranged before this happened. The funny thing is, I remember extremely vividly one of your live streams where you were basically saying something which sounded absurd at the time, but actually ended up being totally true. That Bitcoin is just in a massive range, right? Which is something like this. It's like between 10 to 14k, and then 5 to 4k or whatever, and it's just like ranging, right? So you basically look to buy low and sell high, and then you said at one point this model will break and price will just basically do what it's doing right now. So I guess the model's broken. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was basically confirmed the moment we started breaking 20k, which sounds stupid, right? Where it's like, why would it only turn macro bullish or like in general mega bullish when it breaks 20k? But I mean, looking back on it, right, it's very obvious where the good trade and the kind of stress-free trade has been, and that's been the 20k breakout.
For sure.
Anything like anyone that's just kind of gotten in on the all-time high breakout and just rode it up. I mean, everyone's still up 2.5x, right? And
unleveraged.
That happened in no time at all with zero heat, right? There was no kind of fear of, okay, this is gonna exit scam on me with like wick to basically nothing, or any of the sort. It was just straight up. And something that I try to kind of make clear in with these kind of charts is it's obvious. It's often the case where you have this kind of situation where you get a large time frame move where it's just going sideways, and it seems like the moves are massive, but they can get much bigger the moment they start breaking to the upside. And that's kind of what happened with Bitcoin. Yeah, I'd say it has broken out of its range. Yeah.
Are we trending yet?
Oh yeah, it's just a tiny bit. The crazy part about it all, right? Just looking at like a longer time frame chart on log. It's been like that for several times now, right? So we've had a range in here. I mean, it's a little bit of a less, like this range is shitty in comparison to the one that we've had recently, but it's still like we set an all-time high, we retraced the shitload, and then the moment we started trading back above there, it just went nuts. And I still remember that because that's basically where I started going heavily into it. And then it was just a short while of mega mooning and then a massive range again. And now it's a short while of mega mooning.
Just impulse consolidate, just on the fucking yearly time frame or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it on the 3 month and then you can see it even better. Like this is clearly just, okay, you set a 3 month resistance here and you sold off, and the moment you start breaking that, the first close above it, it's just mega moves.
And never look back, right?
And it's the same thing here, right? You never look back.
Let's hope we never look back. I don't want to live in a world where Bitcoin goes from 50 something to 14. I mean that would be quite weird.
Yeah, I mean, as a wick it could, but
you just say that so casually. Yeah, it'll just wick to 14k.
As like on the chart, it'd still be fine, right? Like imagine this was a wick and then it turned green anyway. Like that'd be fine. I don't think it's gonna happen just based on the fact of the nature of the people that have gotten in. Right?
I agree.
I mean, if you think about who's holding a lot of Bitcoin now, it's not the same people anymore, right? Now you have people like Michael Saylor, you have Tesla in, you have a few bigger people in that even if it goes to like 20k, like would they really sell or would they just look to buy more because they have like, I mean, what you gotta understand in
Elon
this
Musk,
market.
someone says in the chat.
Elon, Jesus Christ, I'm getting.
You didn't even say it. It's just people know when you talk about Tesla, they control you for Elon Musk. It's just my favorite thing in the world now.
I wasn't even sure if I was gonna say if I did say
just
it.
Just say Tesla. It's fine. I mean, you can't avoid getting trolled either way, right? So just do what makes.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't mind. Actually, I find it funny. But yeah, in general, you gotta realize that these big players, besides Michael Saylor, he's basically all in, right? But like most of the other people, they've not put in much, right?
Right.
I mean, Tesla put in 10%. That's a lot, in my opinion. But a lot of other people just put in like 1% or 2%, just to kind of see what's up, kind of get a feel for it. And if that dips, those people don't have to panic sell, right? Like if you get your grandma in it, and she's looking for a quick 10x and it goes down 50%, she's probably going to panic sell, right? If you get someone in that just put in 1% of their portfolio or 0.5% and it goes down 50%, I'm not entirely sure if they're going to panic sell. So like the explosivity on the down moves depends on a lot on who's holding it, right? And who's holding a lot of it.
I really find the who's holding argument really interesting, because we know like it's institutional participation, obviously, but either way, even on the retail crowd side of things, like we've had a lot of liquidations on those dips, etc. But none of these dips on the way up have been particularly scary, to be completely honest with you. Like the only time it looked kind of dicey was around when it broke down below 32K. But like that was just into the yearly open, and that was getting bid so hard, and you never really.
Yeah, that was Tesla. That was
the Tesla buy, right? And it never really looked scary. Like even if you take this whole cluster, which feels like yesterday, like you break below, you retest it, kind of nothing happens. It comes back, nukes off the retest the second time, and just kind of holds support. At no point did it really look in danger. Like look, you can't even find 2 consecutive bearish days below this level. Right? That to me is mental. That's not what a breakdown looks like when you can't even sell off for 2 days. It was just stuck in this range. Then when it broke out, it just mega mooned, right? So at no point did it look threatening. I mean, the only arguable case is this first ever pullback that we had during the trend. But if you're getting scared on that one, then you really have no fucking idea what you're doing, right? It just went from 20k to 40k. It pulls back, 30% into the first and nearest support. That's not where you panic sell, right? That's not where you puke. A few of my friends and stuff got conservative below 30. I totally understood that. I had a similar case when market structure was looking shitty and making lower highs and lower lows. But like for me, any kind of bearishness was invalidated on a reclaim of 34k, this underside cluster. And then the bullish signal for me was the close above, or the move through, I should say, 38 or thereabouts. And obviously you were hit by the Elon news, and it's all kind of dandy since then. Kind of hard to come up with.
I mean, in general,
I think Jump Kick says hindsight cred. I don't think so. And also, I was tweeting all my hedges and how I was literally live trading 30Ks on my Twitter. I don't think it's hindsight. I'm just literally sharing my reflections of what the market looked like and my views on it at the time. You can go back and check. Like, doesn't pay to do any sort of hindsight analysis, especially in an up-only market. I mean, really, what's the point? You can kind of go look for yourself. But, I mean, that's not really the intention of me covering the market as a whole. The point I was making was that at no point did this look particularly scary from a structural point of view. Like, you got the first dip into support, did its job, and then the 30k breakdown wasn't really a breakdown. Plus, Donald knows this at the time, I was mad buying ETH when Bitcoin looked shit below 32k, because I had ETH at weekly support within this structure here, 1 to 50 or thereabouts. So I mean, that especially gave me confluence that it didn't really look like we were going to go cliff diving. So does that mean when we do get a scary looking pullback, you'll have more puking? I really don't know. I don't think it matters. I'm happy to basically stay with up until proven otherwise, buying supports, and then if it breaks, I'll do something, but it hasn't yet, right?
I in my opinion, like I looked at 30k and I found that pretty scary, honestly. But that quickly subsided when I mean, it's been pretty damn obvious when these people have been buying, right? Like, we literally had this stream. I think I streamed like literally at 30k or like at 32, somewhere in that range, where I mentioned that the infinite bid was back, right? And Salsa Tequila, a good friend of ours, on Twitter noticed the same thing. A couple of other people noticed the same thing.
Man, if
You get
Salsa
that
notices the low time frame shift, I tend to believe him, as the meme goes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't trust anyone else in the world to get those sorts of reads as he can.
I mean, you can even see it like now where you got this Coinbase mega spike back down there. You can actually not see it at the lows where it just suddenly traded 200 above everything else. I don't remember quite where it was. Somewhere in here, down here. Either way, you got like big buying on Coinbase coming like down there, and then you reclaim that level, and then you just know, okay, infinite bid is back. So whenever you see this kind of stuff, right? Let's say we put in a range here again, which would surprise me given where we are right now. But let's say we put in a range in here again, you break support again, and then you just see Coinbase just go absolutely mad, trade above indexes, trade, generally speaking, just front running everything, and slow grinding up. And every like kind of nuke gets bought fully up, then you know, okay, there's a big guy coming back in, which is kind of funny. That's been the main thing that you've had to watch out for in this market. It's the exact same down here, right? Where you had infinite bid come in and then you just have a giga rally. It's the same thing that happened down here with Tesla buying. And I mean, if that disappears, that'd be really scary. But I mean, you don't need to kind of be in the mood of, okay, that's going to disappear, because I mean, you're going to see if it disappears, right? If you're actually losing support and you cannot reclaim, then you know, okay, the infinite bid is back. Because the one thing that we've had is that the infinite bid, for some reason, I think it's Coinbase basically telling these people when it's basically a good time to kind of get allocated, is whenever something breaks down and really gets bad. Like in this case, for example, like there was very little technical reason for 10K to hold here. And then you get infinite bid and it goes up, right? And in my opinion, there was very little technical reason to pounce after we've lost the 32K support before at least like a deeper pullback, which would have made sense, right?
Right.
But obviously, a lot of people are looking at the same thing, looking at the technicals here, and they're like, okay, this makes no sense. There's no support in here. It's probably not going to go up. So I'm going to have my bids lower. And that's a good place to kind of scoop everything up. And that's been happening with both buys, and they've been both by Coinbase. So it might be a pattern that keeps on repeating, where you actually break market structure or something, and then you start seeing infinite bid, and you know, okay.
Listen, I'm never gonna contest the advice of buy when the market kind of looks dog shit. Like for the most part, that tends to be decent as long as you have a rough idea of where to look. But yeah, look, there's not a whole lot to add until something really changes, breaks, turns around, etc. You know, it looks good. Especially recently, this most recent impulse came out of... This is like a continuation setup, right? Like pattern failure. When you get like a bearish pattern, which fails to be bearish, that's typically bullish. As weird as that sounds, it kind of makes sense, right? So like on the daily or even on intraday timeframes, you had this grindy looking rising wedge, ascending channel sort of thing. You know, people complaining about funding, etc. Potential threats of all-time high retest and so on and so forth. And when you break out of that pattern, anyone who was bearish, like at resistance or taking that idea and executing on it, they're just on the wrong side of the market, right? They're the ones who are trapped and invalidated. Especially in this case, you've got like a daily engulfing before it. I don't know. I just see this as like I know it's ironic, almost like the vertical accumulation meme comes back, right? Instead of just going impulse, moving sideways, and then moving higher, the market is just being bid, so you get impulse, diagonal, and then breakout. It's the same sort of thing where you go from higher volatility or more impulsiveness to less to more, but it just takes a slightly different shape. I pretty much agree with the Duck. I'm happy to move up to the Saylor candle as a technical structure. If any dips, whenever they may happen, fall into here, I'll probably look to play a bounce. If not, then expecting continuation, and God knows, maybe we get another range formed in the middle of nowhere. Any questions for us? Any final stuff that we can take a look at and answer? I think we've covered a fair bit of content. Nice to catch up with you as well. Let's see what chat has for us, and then we'll round up. Yeah, Salsa is taking a break.
Don, have you looked at Solana? Yeah, I have. I mean, I don't mind it. I like it from what I've seen. I'm not really a FA kind of guy. I don't actually know exactly how the Solana chart looks right now. I think it was lagging, right? Yeah, but now it's kind of coming together. I think it's basically, as stupid as it sounds, it's basically also an exchange kind of play. So if you're seeing BNB go up, if you're seeing FTT go up, Solana's probably going to do well as well.
It's a bet on Sam, right? That's the point.
Yeah, it's a bet on Sam. And if FTT and in general FTX is doing well, Solana's probably going to do well as well. I mean, if you just look at FTT, right, and who holds most of it, you're gonna be not surprised that it's Sam, and he has most of his net worth in FTT, as far as I'm aware.
Isn't that
and
incredible?
This is actually, yeah, it's kind of crazy, and he's making so much bank off of it. But this is actually exactly the same setup as BNB, right? So you get a breakdown, you even get a retest, violent breakdown, and then you reclaim it, and you don't get a good retest, and then you never look back and you moon. And that's the one thing that you do want to see on these altcoins. And a lot of people, I know, like a lot of people want to see this kind of thing. Trust me, when the market is really bullish, you're never going to see this.
Yeah.
Like
when the market time frames, right? Like
on lower time frames maybe, but on the time frame that you're watching, and this is obviously, I'm showing here weekly chart, but this can happen on the daily, this can happen on the 4 hour, right? The range that breaks down violently. It can happen on any kind of time frame. And if the market is really bullish, you're not going to see this. So you don't really want to see it in most cases. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you get it and you get a good entry and it kind of bounces, probably going to go up a little, right? But it's not going to put in these kind of insane gains just based on, okay, it actually gave everyone the chance to get in. And it's usually not what you want to see, in my opinion anyway. It's kind of the same thing if you look all the way back to Litecoin, right? Where you had this massive breakdown. There's actually not even enough space. And this is kind of where I adapted that kind of thinking. Where you get a massive breakdown right here. You've had this kind of area, or even this area if you want to go like all the way back. Massive breakdown, right? Massive washout. And you never get the retest. You get just a straight moon. And I still remember sitting here, having bought a little bit of Litecoin, but not enough, and just being angry with myself because, I mean, everyone got like giga rich from yesterday to today, or like back then, like it was crazy. And it's the same thing over and over again. Like you don't see like the big rally start with, oh, it's just a range reclaim that retests something. It's usually not the case. So
sounds right to me. Okay, cool. I think that's plenty for this week. Final notes from us. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. A thank you to the show's sponsor, which is Bybit. My voice broke there, no problem. Keep going forward. Their links are available in the description below. Have a nice weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. Duck, thank you for your time as well, and I'll see you in like 2 minutes.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.